So we're going to cover Daredevil by Mark Waid, Volume 1 for today's comic book video. Now this is actually very important when it comes to the runs of Daredevil. And what I mean by that is, in the early 2000s, the character went through the ringer. Thanks to Brian Michael Bendis, Ed Brubaker, Shadowland, like my God. Daredevil went through the ringer in the early 2000s. And so when it came to Mark Waid, his idea was more of, let's take a lighter approach with the character. The character been so dark for so long, it's about time for a lighter storyline when it comes to the character. Now, when it comes to Mark Waid's run on Daredevil, I do know that it was very controversial because you did have some people out there who really did love this run. But at the same time, you also had a lot of people who did not like this run. But at the same time, it's still very important because it's technically right now Matt Murdock coming back to New York, because when it came to Daredevil Reborn, he kind of learned that he should still be a hero because the world need heroes like him. And so he came back to New York, and this is a new fresh start for the character. It's him right now saying, I'm back in New York, it's time for me to protect Hell's Kitchen, but also take a lighter look at life. So here is Mark Waid's Volume 1 for the character of Daredevil. And so to get into the opening pages of this book, we actually do pick up right now with Matt Murdock being Daredevil, but at the same time, he's right now attending a wedding. Yes, you heard that right. Now, it's not him really attending the wedding because he knows someone very important to him that's right now getting married. Instead, the reason why he is attending this wedding is because when it comes to the bride and the groom, their two families who are technically mobsters are coming together as one with this wedding happening. But the problem is though, the reason why you have Matt here watching this wedding is because someone put a hit on the bride. Because right now, somebody out there does not want to see the two families actually come together. And so right now, it's Matt saying, I'm going to be Daredevil and protect the bride. Now, of course, we kind of find out who is the assassin. It's a character known as the Spot. Now, when it comes to the Spot, he does have the ability to teleport around the world, different areas in the world, by using his spots. And so right now, technically, he is the assassin who was hired to make sure the bride is killed off. Now, the next few pages are really more of Daredevil fighting against the Spot and actually being able to actually stop him. Now, Matt does tell us that the reason why he knows so much about the Spot is because of Spider-Man. Because technically the Spot is a Spider-Man bad guy. Either way, you have Matt being able to save the bride, save the wedding, and of course get a kiss in with the bride as well, which honestly makes the front page of New York's paper. But then we pick up with Matt Murdock right now in New York. Now, technically, this is him right now trying to begin that fresh start in life, a new beginning in life. And so with that being said, you do have Matt Murdock right now on his way to the courthouse. Now, something else I do want to mention that when it comes to Matt Murdock, Daredevil, at this point in time in Marvel Comics, his identity was well known to the world. The entire world knew that Matt Murdock was Daredevil, and that was done by Brian Michael Bendis. Now, you did have Matt and Foggy, other characters, tried their best to put the genie back in the jar, but unfortunately, the world still knows and believes that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. Even though he tries to pretend he is not Daredevil, the world says, yeah, man, we already know you're Daredevil. It's so obvious, you can't hide anymore. Just go ahead and own it. But either way, you do have Matt Murdock arrive to the courthouse for a certain trial. But with his identity being out there, is going to affect how the trial actually goes. And the reason why I'm saying that, because when Matt Murdock arrives to the courthouse, we kind of find out that he did take on a certain kind of case. Now, when it comes to this case, apparently it's right now a guy known as Joe Bronny, who's right now suing the police department for police brutality. Now, here's the thing though, because right now to Matt Murdock, this should be a easy case, a open close case. But the problem is though, when it comes to the lawyers for the police department, they're kind of like, you cannot trust Joe Bronny. And the reason why? Because who his lawyer is. His lawyer is Daredevil. Like, this man is going around lying saying he's not Daredevil, but we all know that he is Daredevil. And so as the trial goes on, it's technically right now Matt and Foggy losing this case battle right now. That technically right now, the lawyers for the police department are actually winning. Now, that is the moment where you have the judge say, stop. You know what, Joe Bronny, get a new lawyer. Because right now, with you having Matt Murdock and Foggy, you are for sure going to lose this case. And unfortunately, it's not a fair battle for you at all. And so right now, you need to find a different lawyer. And Matt realized that the judge is actually correct. And so you have Matt say, listen, I'll basically find someone else for you and I'll cover your costs for those lawyers. But yes, he's right. You should probably find someone else who's not technically a superhero, or where the world believes that he is a superhero. And so you have Matt Murdock go back to his office. Now, of course, when he does, this is Matt Murdock realizing right now this new fresh start is not going to be easy as he thought it was going to be. Because with the world right now believing that he is Daredevil, that means other cases could go just like the last one did. Now, with that being said, he is confronted by Kirsten McDuffie. Now, Kirsten McDuffie is a newer character in this series, and she is the new DA for New York City. But right now, she's coming here to Matt to tell him something very important. Now, before she actually does that, she's kind of like other people right now in the world, where she does believe that he is Daredevil. Now, of course, you do have Matt try his best and be like, no, I'm not Daredevil. I already proved that technically that was all a big fat lie, that technically right now I'm in the clear. But at the same time, she's kind of like, yeah, I don't believe you. Either way, I came here to tell you something very important. Did you know that you were the first lawyer to actually take on Joe Bronny's case? Because she said other lawyers were actually scared to take on his case. Matter of fact, some did agree, but later on, they were kind of like, know what? I cannot help you, find someone else. And Matt is wondering, why in the world did other lawyers do that? Because when it comes to Joe Bronny's case, it should be an open and shut case. It should be so easy that any lawyer would want that case in a heartbeat. And so you have Kirsten leave, but when she does leave, she's kind of like, yeah, I think it's something that Daredevil should look into to figure out why other lawyers backed out last second. And so you didn't have Matt Murdock change into his Daredevil outfit. Now, when he does, this is technically right now Matt Murdock wondering where should he begin his investigation. Now, here comes the problem though, because while he's out there in Hell's Kitchen, we kind of find out that someone knows how Matt Murdock powers actually work. Because remember, when it comes to Matt, he's actually blind, but he does have a radar that kind of helps him interact with the world around him. Now, with that being said though, apparently someone knows how his radar actually works, because that is the moment where you do have someone use an anti-radar weapon to throw him off. And so technically right now, Matt Murdock is sitting blind in the middle of Hell's Kitchen, where technically the person who had used the anti-radar could easily take out Matt if they wanted to. But we kind of find out the person who actually used it is Captain America Steve Rogers. And so when we jump into the second chapter of the storyline, we actually do pick up right now with Steve Rogers coming after Matt Murdock. Now, the reason why Steve Rogers is coming after Matt Murdock is for two different reasons. The first is that Shadowland, because remember, when it came to Matt Murdock, he was actually evil in Shadowland. He joined the hand hoping that he could turn the hand into something good. Now, unfortunately, that did not happen. Instead, the hand was actually able to corrupt Matt Murdock and turn him evil. But on top of that though, when it comes to Steve Rogers, around this point in Marvel Comics, the Winter Soldier Bucky was also on trial. And because Bucky used to work alongside with Steve Rogers, you had the world look at him say, you have to make sure all heroes are responsible for their actions, including the Winter Soldier. And so right now, he's trying to live up to that promise by coming after Matt Murdock for being evil in Shadowland. Now, of course, that is the moment where you have Matt say, no, you do not understand that technically I was corrupted. I did try to join the hand, but I was trying to turn the hand into something good, something better for the world. But unfortunately, they corrupted me and turned me evil. But listen, Steve, you knew me for so long. You know there's no way I would be this evil character unless something actually happened to me. And of course, you have Steve realize that Matt is right. But at the same time, it's Steve saying, you have one more chance, because if you do anything else, I'm going to arrest you, because right now the world is looking at me to make sure that other heroes do fall in line when it comes to the laws. But then we jump over to Foggy Nelson. Now, when we do, it's Foggy right now being confronted by Kirsten. Now, we kind of find out that apparently Foggy and Kirsten are actually dating, like secretly dating, or at the same time, they're just messing around. Now, the reason why she is here is for two reasons. One, because she has some info that might be great for Matt and Foggy when it comes to Jobrani's case. But on top of that, she's kind of like, listen, if you're looking for your lucky tie, you left it at my place last night. And of course, it's Foggy like, oh my God, I did. Because of course we all know they are doing the dirty. Either way, once you have Foggy realize what information that Kirsten is trying to give him when it comes to Jobrani's case, he realized why other lawyers are technically dropping the case. But then we jump over to Matt Murdock. Now, when we do, it's Matt Murdock right now confronting another lawyer in the city known as Lauren or Gene Lauren. Now, when it comes to Gene Lauren, apparently he's a great lawyer. And so right now it's Matt wondering why the world would Gene drop the case? Because if he took the case, it would be an open and closed case. But on top of that, Gene is a great lawyer. And so you have Matt right now being Daredevil and actually confronting Jen to figure out why did you drop the case? And that is the moment where you have Jen tell Matt, the reason why I dropped the case because as soon as I took the case, I began to get phone calls. Now, when I got the phone calls, of course, the other person on the other side of the call began to talk in a ghost kind of way. It sounded like ghost voices. Like honestly, the person was not there. But at the same time though, they kept calling back and telling me to drop this case. And of course, it scared me because I was worried about my boyfriend. I was worried about other people I care for in the city that could possibly get hurt if I did take the case, because I had no idea what I actually stepped into. Now we come to find out that when it comes to Jen, this is the third lawyer that Matt had interrogated. And so right now it's Matt saying, okay, I now have a better understanding of what is happening right now. Somebody out there is trying to make sure that Jobrani lost the case. But the question is though, why? And so you have Matt Murdock say, let me do some more digging. And so you have Matt Murdock actually go over to where Jobrani's store is at. Because when it comes to Jobrani, he was going to use the money from the case, if he had one, to buy out the entire building where his store was actually located at. And once he bought the building back, he would then reopen his shop. And so right now it's Matt saying, let me go ahead and look around the shop to see if I'm able to find any more information that can tell me what's going on with Jobrani's life. Now that is the moment where you have Matt realize he's hearing sounds from the basement of the shop. And so of course he does go down into the basement. And that is the moment we kind of find out the main bad guy of the storyline is a guy known as Klaw. Now when it comes to Klaw, he was really more of a Black Panther bad guy. And when it came to Klaw, Klaw was a character that would use sound as a weapon. But on top of that though, at this moment in Marvel Comics, he should not be around. And the reason why, because when it came to Klaw, he actually turned into sound. But at this moment in Marvel Comics, he was actually turned into electromagnetic waves and sent out into space. And so of course, he should not be here on Earth at this point in Marvel Comics, but he is here. Well, technically he is not here, because right now we are seeing clones of him. Now let me explain, because these clones are actually pretty interesting, because right now they are technically clones of him, but they're sound clones of him, meaning that somehow sound was able to take form of Klaw but also be solid at the same time. And so all the different Klaws in here, they are technically just clones of Klaw, sound clones that were able to turn solid in some kind of way. Now this right here is throwing off Matt Murdock's radar, because right now his radar is saying, yes, you're hearing a lot of noises, but when he actually touches one of the claws, it's of course a solid figure. And when he does touch that figure, they were able to detect him, and they were able to actually grab him and throw him into some kind of device that they were trying to build. And the question is right now, what were they trying to do with the device that they have built? And now what is going to happen to Matt Murdock being tied into that device? But then we jump into the third chapter. Now, when we do, this is actually right now Foggy paying a visit over to Jorbani. And the reason why, because we kind of find out what Kirsten had told Foggy earlier in the earlier parts of the storyline. And we kind of find out that apparently he had actually found out from Kirsten that Jorbani had failed his psych evaluation. And so because of that, other lawyers are not going to take on his case, because technically it makes him look bad as a witness for his own case. And so that is why you have Foggy right now telling him, hey man, listen, I will be unable to actually recommend any other lawyer to help you out, because in reality, they're going to say no because of this. Now, Foggy has no idea that right now, technically in Jorbani's basement, there are clones of Klaws that Daredevil is right now fighting against at the moment. But getting back over to Matt Murdock, we kind of find out that technically right now, Matt Murdock is actually being held hostage by the Klaws. But we kind of find out what's happening right now in this basement. See, a while back, you had Klaw fight against the Avengers. Now, while doing that, he made a bunch of shadow clones. Of course, clones made out of sound. And when it came to this Klaw, the main one who's right now holding a cane, he was a shadow clone that was actually left behind by Klaw, but not found by the Avengers. And because of that, he's technically been on the run ever since then. But here's the thing, he's right now trying to bring Klaw, the main Klaw, back down to Earth, because remember, the main Klaw was turned into electromagnetic sound waves and was sent out into space. And so right now you have this Klaw say, I'm trying to bring him back down to Earth. And so in this basement, I've been working on some kind of device that could bring him back here. Now he said it took too long, and so he was able to make echoes of himself. Now those echoes were technically those clones right now we saw in the last chapter that became solid sounds as well, so that they were able to actually help the first clone build a device to hopefully bring Klaw back to Earth. Now this all ties into Jorbani, and the reason why, because when they moved into the basement, he was just attacked by the police officers, and because of that, of course, his shop was closed down. And so the Klaws had their advantage right there to hopefully use the basement to build their device. The problem was though, Jorbani was trying to win his case, to get the money, to reopen his shop. But here's the thing, the Clone Klaws found out, and so that began the process of them calling all the different lawyers saying, hey, do not take this case at all, because if you do, we'll come after you. And so that is why the lawyers began to say no to his case. Another reason why. Now on top of that, when Jorbani got that, of course, psych evaluation, of course he failed that. And the reason why? Because of them they were making him go crazy a tad bit. And so because of that, the Klaw clones are the reason why Jobrani can't not have his life back. And so it's Matt Murdock right now trying to break free. And the reason why, because the device they have built is going to bring Klaw back to Earth, but of course sacrifice Matt Murdock's body, because his body is going to be used as a template for the original Klaw to use to make a body when he comes back down to Earth. Now, of course, once you do have the Shadow clones begin the process of actually trying to use the device on Matt Murdock, he began to break out of there because technically right now it was causing so much pain. And so he was able to actually break free. Now, once he does break free, he tries to get away, but the Shadow clone began to follow him. And of course, the original clone that was made from Klaw also does follow him. Now, the next few pages are really more of Matt Murdock trying to get away from the clones of Klaw, but at the same time take them out as well. And so after a few more pages, you actually have all the clones be defeated. And the reason why, because most of the clones were technically made of clones out of the first clone. And so if you get rid of the first clone, the rest of the clones just disappear just like that. And so of course right now, once you have Matt Murdock being able to get rid of the first clone, the rest of the Shadow clones just disappear just like that. Now, before the first clone does disappear, he does tell Matt Murdock that he possibly had help from other people. And the question is right now, who are the other people that helped this guy build his new device, or help him build or engineer this idea in the motion? Now, you do have Matt Murdock being able to get back home or to the office, and of course he does run into Foggy. Now, when he does run into Foggy, he does tell Foggy everything he learned about what was going on in the basement of Jobrani's shop. But at the same time, you also have Foggy tell Matt more information as well. And so once the two characters were able to share their information, of course they realized how Jobrani could actually win this case without their help, because this case again is so easy, it should be an open and closed case. And so you have Matt and Foggy say Jobrani could technically represent himself in court and win that case just like that. If we coach him just good enough, he'll win so easy. And of course, just like that, Jobrani was able to win his case just like that. Bam, done, move on to the next thing. And so you do have Matt and Foggy actually go out for a few drinks to celebrate their big win. Now here's the thing though, because when they do go out to celebrate, you actually have Matt and Foggy right now be confronted by two ladies. Now, if you're new to Daredevil comics, you have no idea that Matt is actually a ladies' man. Let me tell you now, Matt is a ladies' man, y'all. Either way right now, with Matt going out to the bar with Foggy, you have two girls walk up to talk to him. Now, of course, they're wondering if he is Daredevil. He says no, but here's the big thing though, because right after saying that, you then have Matt say, oh, well, me and my partner, we're going to help out people who have the ability to actually represent themselves in court to win their cases if they cannot afford a lawyer, if their case is so easy that they could actually do it themselves. And so with that being said, you have Matt say, oh, by the way, I already have 6 new clients lined up. Now for Foggy, he had no idea about this at all. But at the same time though, it's Matt saying, surprise, because this is what we're gonna do. Because right now, Matt technically cannot be in the courthouse, because every time he goes in the courthouse, he is going to lose that case. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time.